When you hear that on my video, it's because she's making all that noise. Vector. Alright, so this is our DIY Pocket Arcade kit. Okay, I pulled out all the little pieces already so that we could see everything. So I laid them out very similar to how they look on the little paper. See that? Okay, got them all laid out here. It says we need 9 pieces of acrylic. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We need the circuit board with integrated screen and processor. Okay, that is the circuit board here with the screen on the front and the processor on the back. We need a set of buttons, which they have included in this little baggie right here. Perfect, right? A hardware kit containing 4 screws and 4 nuts. Okay, so inside of our little button bag that we have here, we also have the screws. Can you see those? And the little tiny nuts. Okay, so we're gonna use those at some point, and there are 4 of each, so we have everything we need in there. Lithium polymer battery, which is right here. This is our lithium polymer battery. This is our speaker, and we need a lanyard strap, which they gave me a nice sneaky little blue one. The first step will be to assemble the electronic components and give them a quick test. What we need is the electronic pieces, which is the screen and the processor. Remember, that's an electronic piece. We also need the battery to power it, and we also want to test the speaker. Okay, those are the 3 elements that we want to try to test to make sure before we get all into this project and get it all done, to find out that something don't work. So we're going to test it right now before we finish our project. First thing that we want to connect is battery, and it says connect the battery to the connector labeled battery. So, so on the back, if you can see that, but this one on this side is the one that says battery. Okay, it says B-A-T-T. It doesn't say battery, but it says B-A-T-T, which insinuates that that's where the battery goes. Okay, and then on the other side, this connector here, if I can get my nifty tool here, this connector right there, it says speaker, or the letters that it uses, SPKR, speaker. So we know that that's where our speaker goes. Our battery goes on this side, speaker goes on that side. So let's go ahead and connect those. Okay, the easiest way to know that you're not plugging it in the right way is that if you feel like you have to force it, then it's the wrong way. Don't force anything. You should be able to give it a gentle push, and it should go in the way it is supposed to go in. Plugging the battery into the speaker connector or the speaker into the battery connector won't damage anything. So that's a good thing, because I get a little confused sometimes myself, and I start moving too fast and plug things in the wrong place. So it does say that if you plug things in the wrong place, don't panic. It's okay. It's just in the wrong place. You don't mess up anything. Just go ahead and switch them. Go ahead and switch them right now if you put them in the wrong place. I'll give you a few minutes. Well, a few seconds. Okay, good. We're good. The power switch is right here. Okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to flip that power switch from power to on. And look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Something's working, right? Something's working. So that's awesome. We have tiny shooter already up. Okay. So that's perfect. use the joystick to scroll between games. Okay, so what's really confusing about this is that, do you see a joystick? I don't see a joystick. You see one? I don't see one. I kind of see one because I can kind of tell where it's supposed to go. So we know that it's a little cross, right? That's our joystick, that little cross there. So I'm assuming that these 4 little switches or pins on the board are our scrolling overs joysticks. Okay, so alright, so I'm trying to push on these. I'm not seeing how I do that. So what I'm gonna do, just because I feel like maybe I just need to pull it out and figure it out here. Alright, so I'm gonna put this here. And we're gonna actually physically, oh, look at that. Okay, so what I figured out is that I just took that little plastic piece that they're calling our joystick, and I set it right on there so that it covered all of those connectors, okay? I can't show you how I did it, but see, there's the connectors, and then there's the little joystick on top. So what I'm gonna do is I just set it down, and if you look carefully, games have Tiny Shooter, Flappy Birds, Tetris, so on and so forth. I think there's only 3 games. Those 3 games I named, I don't know. So on and so forth doesn't happen to be on there. So anyway, so that's our first step. Just to test it, make sure before we start putting things together, make sure that it actually works. Alright, so I'm gonna put my buttons back in the bag because I'm clumsy and like I almost lost that button just now. They're safe in the bag now. Fantastic, right? Okay, so let's turn the speaker off and the power off. Alright, so we have done our test to make sure that everything is working. We heard the sounds, the speaker is working. We also were able to get the battery to turn the LCD screen on, which is excellent. That means that the battery is operating correctly. So let's go ahead and move on to our next step, okay? Alright, what's the next step? Now we have to do the acrylic preparation. Now the acrylic preparation looks like fun in the not category. It looks like we're going to be peeling off these neat little paper covers, okay, or sticker covers. I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'll speed it up for you so you don't have to sit there and watch me as I peel, because this, I'm sure, is a tedious process. Okay, so I got a little ahead of myself, and I had already started peeling, and I realized that it was really difficult with just my fingernails, besides the fact that I bite my fingernails, so I don't have very many fingernails to work with. So what I have actually pulled out of my little toolkit is just a tiny little pick, and actually you could use a toothpick or just anything with a semi-sharp edge on it. This one actually doesn't have a super sharp edge, if you can tell. I didn't want it to have it so sharp that I started to scrape the acrylic, because it's nice and clean and, you know, not scratched up. What you want to do is take the little pick, okay, the little pick that has, or toothpick or whatever, and just take a corner of where you're working and kind of peel up that edge so you don't ruin the rest of it, so it's nice, stays nice and clear. And if you can tell, I peeled up just a tiny little bit, enough for me to grab it with my fingers and peel it off, just like that. Okay, so if you're having trouble with it like I was having trouble with it, just get yourself a little toothpick or something with a semi-sharp edge. Like I said, you don't want anything super sharp, because you will scrape right into that acrylic and it won't be pretty and shiny when you get done. So you just want to use it just for a corner, and then just get yourself a tiny little bit, just enough to get some leverage to peel that sticker off. Now we're getting into the full assembly, the fun part, right? We're gonna put it all together and make this happen. Let me put my teeny tiny pick away here. And we are going to go ahead and make this functional game, pocket-sized game. We're gonna put it together and we're gonna show it off to our friends because we're smart and we're awesome. And yeah, we put together a tiny pocket arcade. Okay, let's get to it. Start by peeling the protective film off the screen. You know how I feel about protective film on screens, but I am trusting the process. Peel the protective film off of the screen. Okay, there we go. All right, so the button holder looks like this. So it's confusing because you have two pieces that look very similar, okay? But the one that you want to use, I'm trying to get it in the light. The one that you want to use is this one. The one with the larger square here and then the little tiny notches all around the edge. Okay, that is going to be our button holder. So I have placed it on top of the screen and it actually goes flush to that board. Do you see that? So that's the button holder and it actually sits flush to the board. So now that we have put on the button holder on the front circuit board, next, place the buttons in their spots. Okay, so this is the part where we take our buttons out, right? And when you're done, it should look like that. It should look like that. Look like that, right? It's time to put the top layer over the buttons. So this is now our top layer. This is the next layer that we're gonna put on, and we're gonna put it over our buttons. And like I said, if it doesn't fit like that, that means that it must be backwards. So I flipped it over, since we can't tell really, and I put it right on top. And again, it sits flush. That's how I know that it's in the right place. It's seated in there perfectly. Okay, so we're gonna take these 4 little screws. Before I do that, there are four little holes, teeny tiny little holes. One up here, one here, one here, and then there's another one right there in that corner. And you just push it through that hole, and then you should have the long sides of the screw sticking out on the back. Can you see? Push the battery and speaker towards the middle of the board. Makes the next step a bit easier is always the way to go. Work smarter, not harder, right? So we're gonna push them straight to the middle of that board. But if you're looking at how I'm doing it, like these cables are not liking me right now. They're not liking the position that I'm pushing them in, but I'm not gonna force them because I don't want to cause damage to any of my cables. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just put it right there. We want this one and this one. I don't know why they're saying short overhangings. I guess they're saying that these are shorter, so versus this. So this one is longer. You see that? So this is the one we want to use. This is the short one. This is the short one. This is the long one. We want to use the short one. If it's flush, then it must be right in this project anyway. Okay? So it's laying flush and it looks good. That means that it cleared everything. It didn't pinch nothing. It didn't cause no issue. So it is good to go. Okay? So there's a little peely tab here. You see that? Yeah. So we're going to peel that off. There's a clear spot here on this side. So what we're going to do is take that sticky speaker and we are going to stick it to the clear spot and make sure it doesn't stick to nothing. Mine is in there good. Let's make sure I don't lose any of my screws when I'm showing you. And that is where it seems like it goes. I'm going to try to push this cable around to the front side. And like I said, I don't want to move it too much. I don't want to damage a cable. That would be detrimental. That would make the speaker not work. So the next thing we're going to do, we are going to take those long ones that we talked about before with the long ends, and we are going to actually slide those on where, so these are the hollow layers. Okay, so we're going to place those into place. And like I said, there's a little tiny hole right there in the corner. So what we want to do is slide them into place. Hollow pieces. Alright, so there's only one more piece that it looks like we need to slide on there. And as you can see, we barely have any space on our screws now. Our screws are tiny short. Okay, so we're going to carefully try to push this last piece, finally place the back piece onto the screws and finish off the 4 nuts. So we're going to push this onto the screws. And we got very little space there, okay? And we're gonna take our tiny little nuts. I don't know if you can see those. You can't see that. You can't even see it in my hand. It's that tiny. But I mean, that's the occupational hazard of working with tiny equipment, making tiny stuff. You can't see those, can you? Let's see. Nope. You're not gonna be able to see it. Maybe if I put it on my finger. There it is. Now you can see it. Yep. So I'm going to... And now they gave us, look at this tiny little wrench. Okay, and we're going to tighten it, but what we don't want to do is tighten it too much to where it cracks the acrylic. So we're going to tighten it, and we're going to feel for it, because we want to feel if it's getting so tight that it's going to crack something, either our tiny little wrench or our game system, which would be a bad thing. Okay, so, okay, I feel like that's tight enough. I felt a little resistance, so I'm not going to push it. I'm just going to let it stay where it is. And guess what? This is our tiny little game system. Let's turn it on and see what happens. Let's see what happens when we turn it on. There we go. It's our tiny little game system. Guess what I can move it to a different game. I like that game. That's Tetris. That's like Tetris. It's called Tiny Wrists. Awesome thing is, if you go on tinysircuits.com, you can actually find more games if you want to add more games to your system. Also, they even have a tutorial on there where you can make your own game. If you would like to make your own game or learn how to make your own game and do some programming so that you can create your own game on your game system, go ahead and do that. You should do that. That would be an amazing learning experience, okay? So, we did it! We made a game system. And now we have a tiny game system that we can actually carry with us. Check it out. Check it out. Good job today. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this video. Yes. Like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe because I want you to come back. I want you to do more fun projects with me because they're awesome and they're fun. And I don't want you to miss out. And you got to hit that little alarm button too so that when I do another fun project, you'll be right there with me doing it too. Let's get it done. And go on tinysircuits.com and get this game system so you can make it too. Okay? All right. Thank you and have a fantastic day.
I see you. We good. Okay. We good. I see you. We see each other. We see each other. We good.